This is part 19 of Good Omens. Friday. Raven Sable, slim and bearded and dressed all in black, sat in the back of his slim-line black limousine, talking to his slim-line black telephone to his West Coast base. "How's it going?" he asked. "Looking good, Chief," said his marketing head. "I'm doing breakfast with the buyers for all the leading supermarket chains tomorrow. No problem. We're having meals TM in all the stores this time next month." "Good work, Nick." No problem. It's knowing you're behind us, Rave. You really give great leadership, Guy. Works for me every time." "Thank you," said Sable, and he broke the connection. He was partly proud of Meals TM. The Nutrition Corporation had started small 11 years ago. A small team of food scientists, a huge team of marketing and public relations personnel, and a neat logo. 2 years of nutrition investments and research had produced Chow TM. Chow TM contained spun, plated, and woven protein molecules capped and coated, carefully designed to be ignored by even the most ravenous digestive tract enzymes. No cow sweeteners, mineral oils replacing vegetable oils, fibrous materials, colorings, and flavorings. The end result was a foodstuff almost indistinguishable from any other except for two things. Firstly, the price, which was slightly higher, and second, the nutritional content, which was roughly equivalent to that of a Sony Walkman. It didn't matter how much you ate, you lost weight, and hair, and skin tone, and if you ate enough of it, long enough, vital signs. Fat people had bought it. Thin people who didn't want to get fat had bought it. Chow TM was the ultimate diet food, carefully spun, woven, textured, and pounded to imitate anything, from potatoes to venison, although the chicken sold best. Sable sat back and watched the money roll in. He watched Chow TM gradually fill the ecological niche that used to be filled with old, untrademarked food. He followed Chow TM with Snacks TM, junk food made from real junk. Meals TM was Sable's latest brainwave. Meals TM was Chow TM with added sugars and fat. The theory was that if you ate enough Meals TM, you would A, get very fat, and B, die of malnutrition. The paradox delighted Sable. Meals TM were currently being tested all over America. Pizza meals, fish meals, Szechuan meals, microbiotic rice meals, even hamburger meals. Sable's limousine was parked in the lot of a Des Moines, Iowa burger lord, a fast food franchise wholly owned by his organization. It was here they'd been piloting hamburger meals for the last 6 months. He wanted to see what kind of results they'd been getting. He leaned forward, tapped the chauffeur's glass partition. His chauffeur pressed the switch and the glass slid open. "Sir, I'm going to take a look at our operation, Marlin. I'll be 10 minutes, then back to LA. "Sir." Sable sauntered into the burger lord. It was exactly like every other burger lord in America, but not like every other burger lord across the world. German burger lords, for example, sold lager instead of root beer, while English burger lords managed to take any American fast food virtues, the speed with which food was delivered, for example, and carefully remove them. Your food arrived after half an hour at room temperature, and it was only because of the strip of warm lettuce between them that you could distinguish the burger from the bun. The Burger Lord Pathfinder salesman had been shot 25 times after setting foot in France. Mick Lordy the clown danced in the kids' corner. The serving staff had identical gleaming smiles that never reached their eyes, and behind the counter a chubby middle-aged man in a Burger Lord uniform slapped burgers onto the grill, whistling softly, happy in his work. Sable went up to the counter. "Hello, my name is Marie," said the girl behind the counter. "How can I help you?" "A double blaster Thunder Big Gun, extra fries, hold the mustard," he said. "Anything to drink?" "A special thick, whippy choco banana shake." She pressed the little pictogram scales on her till. Literacy was no longer a requirement for employment in these restaurants. Smiling was. Then she returned to the chubby man behind the counter. "DBTBEF, hold mustard," she said. "Choco shake." "Uh-huh," crooned the cook. He sorted the food into little paper containers, pausing only to brush the graying cowlick from his eyes. Here you are, he said. She took them without looking at him, and he returned cheerfully to his griddle, singing quietly, "Love me tender, love me long, never let me go." The man's humming Sable noted clashed with the Burger King background music, a tinny tape loop of the Burger Lord commercial jingle, and he made a mental note to have him fired. "Hello, my name is Marie," gave Sable his meal TM and told him to have a nice day. He found a small plastic table, sat down in the plastic seat, and examined his food. Artificial bread roll, artificial burger, fries that had never even seen potatoes, foodless sauces, and Sable was especially pleased with this, an artificial slice of dill pickle. He didn't bother to examine his milkshake. It had no actual food content, but then again, neither did those sold by any of its rivals. All around him, people were eating their unfood with, if not actual evidence of enjoyment, then with no more actual disgust than was to be found in burger chains all over the planet. He stood up, took his tray over to the "Please dispose of your refuse with care" receptacle, and dumped the whole thing. If you had told him that there were children starving in Africa, he would have been flattered that you'd noticed. There was a tug at his sleeve. "Party name of Sable?" asked a small, bespectacled man in an International Express cap holding a brown paper parcel. Sable nodded. "Thought it was you. Looked around, thought. Tall gent with a beard. Nice suit. Can't be that many of 'em here. Package for you, sir." Sable signed for it. His real name, 1 word, 6 letters. Sounds like examine. "Thank you kindly, sir," said the delivery man. He paused. "Here," he said. "That bloke behind the counter. Does he remind you of anyone?" "No," said Sable. He gave the man a tip, $5, and opened the package. In it was a small pair of brass scales. Sable smiled. It was a slim smile, and was gone almost instantly. "About time," he said. He thrust the scales into his pocket, unheeding of the damage being done to the sleek line of his black suit, and went back to the limo. "Back to the office?" asked the chauffeur. "The airport," said Sable, "and call ahead. I want a ticket to England." "Yes, sir. Return ticket to England." Sable fingered the scales in his pocket. "Make that a single," he said. "I'll be making my own way back. Oh, and call the office for me. Cancel all appointments." "How long for, sir?" "The foreseeable future." And in the Burger Lord behind the counter, the stout man with the cowlick slid another half dozen burgers onto the grill. He was the happiest man in the whole world, and he was singing very softly. "Ain't never caught a rabbit," he hummed to himself, "and you ain't no friend of mine." The them listened with interest. There was a slight drizzle which was barely kept at bay by the old iron sheets and frayed bits of lino that roofed their den in the quarry, and they always looked to Adam to think of things to do when it was raining. They weren't disappointed. Adam's eyes were agleam with the joy of knowledge. It had been 3 a.m. before he'd gone to sleep under a pile of new aquarians. "And then there was this man called Charles Fort," he said. "He could make it rain fish and frogs and stuff." "Huh," said Pepper. "I bet. Alive frogs?" "Oh, yes," said Adam, warming to his subject. "Hopping around and croaking and everything. People paid him money to go away in the end, and he racked his brain for something that would satisfy his audience. He'd done, for Adam, a lot of reading in one go. "And he sailed off in the Mary Celeste and found the Bermuda Triangle. It's in Bermuda," he added helpfully. "No, he couldn't have done that," said Wensleydale sternly, "because I've read about the Mary Celeste, and there was no one on it. It's famous for having no one on it. They found it floating around all by itself with no one on it." "I didn't say he was on it when they found it, did I?" said Adam scathingly. "Course he wasn't on it, 'cause of the UFOs landing and taking him off. I thought everyone knew about that." The them relaxed a bit. They were on firmer grounds with UFOs. They weren't entirely certain about New Age UFOs, though. They listened politely to Adam on the subject. But somehow, modern UFOs lacked punch. "If I was an alien," said Pepper, voicing the opinion of them all, "I wouldn't go round telling people all about mystic cosmic harmony. I'd say," her voice became hoarse and nasal, like someone hampered with an evil black mask, "This is a laser blaster, so you do what you're told, rebel swine." They all nodded. A favorite game in Quarry had been based on a highly successful film series with lasers, robots, and a princess who wore her hair in a pair of stereo headphones, TM. It had been agreed, without a word being said, that if anyone was going to play the part of any stupid princesses, it wasn't going to be Pepper. But the game normally ended in a fight to be the one who allowed to wear the coal scuttle TM and blow up planets. Adam was best at it. When he was the villain, he really sounded as if he could blow up the world. The them were, anyway, temperamentally on the side of planet destroyers, provided they could be allowed to rescue princesses at the same time. I expect that's what they used to do, said Adam. But now it's different. They all have this bright blue light around them and go around doing good. Sort of galactic policemen going around telling everyone to live in universal harmony and stuff. There was a moment's silence while they pondered this waste of perfectly good UFOs. What I've always wondered, said Brian, is why they call them UFOs when they know they're flying saucers. I mean, they're identified flying objects then. It's because the government hushes it all up, said Adam. Millions of flying saucers landing all the time, and the governments keep hushing it up. Why? Said Wensleydale. Adam hesitated. His reading hadn't provided a quick explanation for this. New Aquarian just took it as a foundation of belief, both of itself and its readers, that the government hushed everything up. "'Cause they're the government," said Adam simply. "That's what governments do. They got this great big building in London full of books of all the things they've hushed up. When the Prime Minister gets into work in the morning, the first thing he does is go through the big list of everything that's happened in the night and put this big red stamp on them. I bet he has a cup of tea first and then reads the paper," said Wensleydale, who had on one memorable occasion during the holidays gone unexpectedly into his father's office where he had formed certain impressions, "and talks about what was on TV last night." "Well, all right, but after that he gets out the book and the big stamp." "Which says, 'Hush it up,'" said Pepper. "It says top secret," said Adam, resenting this attempt at bipartisan creativity. "It's like nuclear power stations. They keep blowing up all the time, but no one ever finds out because the government hushes it up." "They don't keep blowing up all the time," said Wensleydale severely. "My father says they're dead safe, and mean we don't have to live in a greenhouse. Anyway, there's a big picture of one in my comic, and it doesn't say anything about it blowing up." Wensleydale's alleged comic was a 94-week part work called Wonders of Nature and Science. He had every single one so far and had asked for a set of binders for his birthday. Brian's weekly reading was anything with a lot of exclamation points in the title, like whiz or clang. So was Pepper's, although even under the most refined of tortures, she still wouldn't admit to the fact that she also bought just 17 under plain covers. Adam didn't read any comics at all. They never lived up to the kind of things he could do in his head. "Yes," said Brian, "but if you lent me that comic afterwards and I know what type of picture it was—" Wensleydale hesitated and then said in a voice heavy with badly tried patience, "Brian, just because it says exploded diagram." There was a usual brief scuffle. "Look," said Adam severely, "do you want me to tell you about the aquarium age or not?" The fight, never very serious amongst the siblinghood of the them, subsided. "Right," said Adam. He scratched his head. "Now you've made me forget where I've got to," he complained. "Flying saucers," said Brian. Right. Well, if you do see a flying UFO, these government come and tell you off," said Adam, getting back into his stride. "In a big black car. It happens all the time in America." The them nodded sagely. Of this, at least, they had no doubt. America was to them the place that good people went to when they died. They were prepared to believe just about anything could happen in America. "Probably 'cause traffic jams," said Adam. "All these men in black cars going about telling people off for seeing UFOs. They tell you that if you go on seeing them, you'll have a nasty accident." "Probably get run over by a big black car," said Brian, picking at a scab on his dirty knee. He brightened up. "Do you know," he said, My cousin said that in America there's shops that sell 39 different flavors of ice cream. This even silenced Adam briefly. There aren't 39 flavors of ice cream, said Pepper. There aren't 39 flavors in the whole world. There could be if you mixed them up, said Wensleydale, blinking owlishly. You know, strawberry and chocolate and vanilla. He sought for more English flavors. Strawberry and vanilla and chocolate, he added lamely. And then there's Atlantis, said Adam loudly. He had their interest there. They enjoyed Atlantis. Cities that sank under the seas were right up the Thames Street. They listened intently to a jumbled account of pyramids, weird priesthoods, and ancient secrets. Did it just happen sudden or slowly, said Brian. Sort of sudden and slowly, said Adam, because a lot of them got away in boats to all the other countries and taught how to do maths and English and history and stuff. Don't see what's so great about that, said Pepper. Could have been good fun when it was sinking, said Brian wistfully, recalling the one occasion when Lower Tatterfield had been flooded. People delivering the milk and newspapers by boat, no one having to go to school. If I was an Atlantean, I'd have stayed, said Wensleydale. This was greeted with disdainful laughter, but he pressed on. You just have to wear a diver's helmet, that's all, and nail all the windows shut and fill the houses with air. It would be great. Adam greeted this with the chilly stare he reserved for any of them who came up with an idea he really wished he'd thought of first. They could have done, he conceded, somewhat weakly. After they sent all the teachers off in the boats, maybe everyone else stayed on when it went down. You wouldn't have to wash, said Brian, whose parents forced him to wash a great deal more than he thought could possibly be healthy. Not that it did any good. There was something basically ground in about Brian. Because everything would stay clean, and you could grow seaweed and stuff in the garden and shoot sharks and have pet octopuses and stuff, and there wouldn't be any schools and stuff because they'd have got rid of all the teachers. They could still be down there now, said Pepper. They thought about the Atlanteans, clad in flowing mystic robes and goldfish bowls, enjoying themselves deep under the choppy waters of the ocean. Huh, said Pepper, summing up their feelings. What shall we do now? Said Brian. It's brightened up a bit. In the end, they played Charles Fort Discovering Things. This consisted of one of them walking around with the ancient remains of an umbrella, while the others treated him to a rain of frogs, or rather frog. They could only find one in the pond. It was an elderly frog who knew them of old and tolerated their interest as the price it paid for a pond otherwise free of moorhens and pike. It put up with things good-naturedly for a while before hopping off to a secret and so far undiscovered hideout in an old drain pipe. Then they went home for lunch. Adam felt very pleased about the morning's work. He'd always known that the world was an interesting place, and his imagination had peopled it with pirates and bandits and spies and astronauts and similar. But he'd also had a nagging suspicion that, when you got seriously right down to it, they were all just things in books and didn't properly exist anymore, whereas this aquarium age stuff was really real. Grown-up people wrote lots of books about it. New Aquarium was full of adverts for them. And Bigfoots and Mothmen and Yetis and sea monsters and Surrey pumas really existed. If Cortez on his peak in Darien had slightly damp feet from the efforts at catching frogs, he'd have felt just like Adam at that moment. The world was bright and strange, and he was in the middle of it. He bolted his lunch and retired to his room. There were still quite a few new Aquarians he hadn't read yet.